A few nights ago, me and my two buddies were hanging out as we usually do late on Friday night. We have this road near our town that leads to a military base gate. A right turn from the gate is a road that leads through a large section of woods and eventually back into town. The whole area is surrounded by woods for at least a few miles. It's common for people to street race down this road at night, as it has all kinds of fun twists and turns and is far from anybody. My friends and I often go there to drive fast and goof around with our cars, as we do it often. Anyways, we were all hanging out listening to music driving towards the road. We made the turn to go past the abandoned church onto the short road leading to the military base gate. My friend picked up some speed going up to the gate, and we turned onto the dark wooded road, going fast but not too fast yet, in case any cops that sometimes hang around the area were there. We made it towards the end of the road and made a quick U-turn to go back the same way we had come from. But only this time we were going a little faster through the dark, quiet woods, carrying through the corners swiftly. We got back to the military gate, and my friend made the turn back down towards the abandoned church, picking up speed as we went down the hill. Right as we reached the bottom of the hill, we all noticed something that sounded like a stick hitting the side of the car with a hard-sounding thud. My friend hit the brakes and slowed down to about 20 miles per hour. We all started asking questions as to what just happened. Being the only one that didn't see what happened from the back driver's side seat, I thought we just hit a branch, kicking it up off the ground and making it hit the side of the car. My friends quickly reassured me that they both didn't see a branch in the road, and they both saw it come from the woods, hitting the driver's side quarter panel and window as if it was thrown at us. We all concluded that it was probably somebody that might have been walking down the road, and for some reason we didn't see them, and they were probably angry at us for speeding by. We turned around at the end of the short road to see if that was true, and then we noticed another car coming our way. They were passing the same spot that we were at when we collided with the branch. This car very obviously slowed down when passing that spot, and then sped back up before passing us. It was a little weird. It was as if it seemed like they had experienced the same thing we had. We got all the way back up to the gate, and didn't see anybody walking, and didn't even see a single branch in the road either. I told my friend to loop back around and go really slow past where the branch was thrown at us. As we passed the spot, I saw a clearing in the bushes. I'm not sure what the clearing is for, but it looked like the opening to an old service road that has since been overgrown by these invasive bamboo-looking bushes. I started to point out the spot to my friends, and as I did, I saw something in the opening. I only saw it for a brief second, as the car's headlights were now too far past to light the figure up, but I know for a fact I saw something pale and kind of gray-looking sitting in that tiny opening. I froze after seeing it, and didn't know what to tell my friends. It was almost ironic that I saw something, because moments before, I was thinking about tricking my buddies into thinking I saw something and freaking them out. But that joke turned into reality. I didn't see enough of it to determine if it was a person, animal, or anything alive for that matter. But I know it wasn't just the bushes or a tree trunk. There was something in that clearing. I told my friends that I saw something, and we looped around one last time. This time, my friend positioned the car to face the opening so that we would get a clear view with the headlights. Of course, whatever I saw was gone. Nothing was there but a space no bigger than a car and a thick bush around it. They still believed me though, and we hightailed it out of there. We got to my friend's house and out to inspect the car for dents or scratches, and sure enough, it had some. One noticeable dent with a couple of tiny pale chips and a few good scratches. My friend's car is older, so we didn't really care. We concluded that it was just some kids messing around, even though it wouldn't really make sense being there were no cars parked anywhere on the side of the road, or houses close enough to justify walking there. Also, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, so who would be out there? Even our original thought of somebody walking there was kind of a stretch of our logic. Looking back, what I saw kind of looked like someone or something's shoulder getting briefly caught by the light, but who knows? Maybe it's a ghost who haunts the road at night and was finally getting revenge for people tearing up and down the road with our obnoxious cars. There were no overhanging trees that could have had a branch fall on us or wind blow it onto us somehow. My friends are sure that the trajectory that the branch took was in no way natural, and the dent in the car proves it. This happened when I was 18 or 19. It was a summer night, probably late July or early August. It was warm out, so a friend and I had gotten into the habit of driving around late at night just to talk. We'd do loops outside the city. The kind of quiet, empty roads that cut through the French countryside. No real destination, just driving and talking, windows cracked, music low. This one night it was around 1:30 a.m., and the road was completely empty. No streetlights, no visible houses, just open fields on both sides. We were going slow, talking about something personal. Suddenly, my friend hit the brakes. He didn't yell or panic, just a sharp, reflexive stop. There in the headlights, I saw a man crossing the road. He came out of the field to our left, walking towards the one on the right. What immediately struck me was that he was completely naked. His skin was an oddly pale, flat beige, almost like a dull gray. But that's not what stuck with me. It was the way that he moved. He didn't walk like a drunk or someone who was hurt. It was more like he didn't weigh anything. His steps were slow and floaty, almost like he was forcing his body to move forward. His arms hung loose, his head tilted slightly down. He never turned towards us, no reaction to the lights, the sound, nothing. He crossed slowly and disappeared into the field on the other side. We were silent for a couple of seconds, processing, and then my friend accelerated away down the road. We drove back towards the main road, not saying much. I wasn't scared exactly, but I felt this deep, uneasy feeling like what I had seen didn't make sense. The next day, out of curiosity, we went back in the afternoon. We recognized the spot easily because of a twisted tree by the roadside, but when we looked around, there was nothing. No trail, no path, no house nearby. Just two big fields and the same empty, quiet road cutting through. I have no rational explanation for what we saw, but I know what I saw, and I know it wasn't normal. I live off a highway. It's kind of strange because generally highways don't have houses on them. But I live out in the country, and while it's a busy highway, my section of it is not as busy as others. So late at night, it's not too bad as far as car noises and such. It never really gets much traffic or anything like that either, because I'm not near any major cities. It's pretty far out there, and it's very rural. My driveway is also rather long, and my property is several acres. The houses here are spread out, and when I bought the place 30 years ago, one of the reasons it was cheap was because of the fact that it's on a highway. The front yard is very long, and there's a ditch at the front. Then there's this row of pine trees kind of acting as a wall to block my house from the highway, because the trees are very large. Overall, I've never had any problems with being right on a highway, and by now, I'm obviously very used to it. Over the years, there have been a couple of crashes into my yard, and a couple of cop chases going by. The crashes were never that bad. One time somebody hit a tree, and another time went into the ditch. Occasionally, sometimes people will also turn into my driveway just to turn around, or just continue and keep going. This is because of the fact that it's right off the highway. People get lost and stuff, but I've never really had anything too crazy or suspicious happen, until this one night. I'm going to tell you the strangest thing that has happened in my time living here. So one night, I was by myself at home, hanging out in the living room. It was pretty late, I'm guessing around 11 o'clock or so. As I was watching TV, I noticed hearing some sounds out front near the highway. I couldn't tell exactly what it was. Normally, I will hear cars driving by, but it's not too loud. My house is far enough from the highway that it's hardly a bother. I got up and walked towards the front of the house. When I got there, I noticed that there appeared to be several cars parked on the side of the road. By now, not many cars were driving down the highway, just a couple a minute, I would say. Now, the pine trees were partly blocking my view of the road and the cars. There was basically a few feet in between each tree where I could see the road. So I could tell that there were cars parked alongside of it, and I could see there were at least 5 of them between the trees. This seemed really strange. Why would there be a bunch of cars parked on the side of the road? There were a number of possible explanations, but I wanted to see for myself. I continued looking out the window for a short time, and I didn't see or hear anything strange. My thought was that maybe it was a minor crash, like a fender bender, but I did not see any people walking around outside of the cars. Of course, my view was obstructed. After not seeing anything for a couple of minutes, I got up and decided to go outside and see for myself. I walked out the front door and then through my long front yard. When I got past the pine trees, I saw that there were about 5 or 6 cars all parked on the side of the road. None of them had any damage on them, and they were all parked about equidistant apart. But nobody was inside any of them, and there was nobody else in sight. I was so confused. I thought for a moment that maybe this was one of those car meetups, but none of these cars were fancy or that nice. One of the cars was completely blocking my driveway, which kind of made me angry. I called out asking if anybody was there. I looked up and down the highway both ways, but saw no one, and nobody responded to my call either. My house was really not near anything else, like a building or park, or even another house, so it's not like it would be my next door neighbor having a party and the people parked there, because my next door neighbor is almost half a mile down the road. As confused as I was, I decided to go back inside. I thought about calling the cops, but I figured I would wait at least until I was going to bed and then check out the windows again to see if they moved. As I was walking through my long front yard towards my house, I saw something. There were two guys walking through my backyard. I could just barely see them. I knew they weren't supposed to be back there and were probably related to the cars parked in front of my house. I walked faster and got back to my front step. Then I went inside and locked the door. A short time after getting back in, maybe 30 seconds, I heard somebody trying to open my back door. This had to be the guys that were in my yard. I was very confused as to what was going on, but decided to go ahead now with my call to the police. I took out my cell phone and dialed 911. As I did this, I heard somebody start to knock on the back door. I didn't go over there. I just waited for the 911 operator to answer and then told them what was going on. I heard some bushes moving that were at the back of my house and what sounded like multiple people back there moving around. After I finished my call with the police, I waited. I decided to go to the rear of my house to see if the guys were still there. When I did, they were not there anymore, so I went around and looked out of some other windows. I didn't see them. When I got to the front of the house, I saw one of the cars driving away. The others followed. Within a minute, all the cars were gone. The cops got there a while later, but everybody had left. I told them what happened, and they looked around a little. I gave them descriptions of the cars, and then the police left. I never heard anything back after that. I really don't know what was going on there. It was very strange. My best guess is a possible robbery. I only saw two guys, but with all the cars that were there had to have been at least 5, which kind of creeps me out. Why they just left though, I'm not sure. I'm glad they did though. I live by this nature preserve on a dark road, which has hiking, frisbee golf, and a park, among other stuff. I was around 13 or 14 at the time, and it was the summertime. During the summer, my friends and I love to go on the trails at the nature preserve at night because it's quiet, creepy, and we love the adrenaline. Now, most of the trails are quite short, but one of them is 2.5 miles long, and it goes through about half of the entire nature preserve. We had been scared to go down this trail at night, but this time we finally decided to face our fears and go for it. We went down the trail, which is this gravel road, and it's quite wide, so we were all next to each other on our bikes, about 6 of us. Now the trail is surrounded by woods completely, and there was no light, and to make it extra creepy, we decided not to use any flashlights, which was a terrible idea. So we were going down this trail, and out of nowhere, we saw about 8 deer in the middle of the trail just standing still. Now for some reason, my friend has a fear of deer, and he was panicking and wanted to go back, but we didn't want to let him go by himself. But we also didn't want to leave the trail, so we kind of forced him to stay. Out of nowhere, the deer started running into the woods, as if they were startled by a potential predator. You know when you're in the woods and you hear crickets, frogs, and other animals? They all went quiet, and we were standing in complete utter silence. We were a little freaked out standing in the middle of the trail, expecting a bear or something to pop out. We stayed in the spot for about a minute or two until all the sounds came back and everything seemed to be normal. Even after that, we still had the will to keep going down the trail. So we kept biking, and out of nowhere the trail got very narrow, only about 5 feet wide, and we didn't realize it. So we all just biked straight into the woods off the trail and crashed into bushes. It took a little to recuperate, but we got into a straight line and went down the narrow trail. At this point, the trail went from gravel road to just a small narrow dirt path. The following moments are by far the scariest moments of my life. We were going down the narrow path, and I randomly looked to my right and noticed a bit of light. We noticed that we were next to a road in the distance, meaning we were nearing the end of the trail. I was looking at this road, and I wasn't paying attention to what was in front of me, and I ran straight into the person in front of me, and it was like a domino effect, and we all fell. As we were getting back up, we began to hear the sound of wood knocking all around us, and then we heard people talking. It was like what it sounds like to be in a room full of people talking, so you can hear people talking but you can't really make out what they're saying. The voices stopped, and we noticed a silhouette on the road in the distance. It was just standing, looking right at us, and we took this as a sign to turn around and leave. We raced back down the way we had come from, and I'm surprised we didn't crash again. As we were riding back as fast as we could, my bike chain broke. We stopped and fixed it as fast as we could. As we were fixing it, the woods went quiet again, and I heard extremely heavy footsteps down the road behind us. We got the chain on and booked it out of there. As we exited the trail, we got back onto the road that my neighborhood is on. We heard what sounded like a woman's screech coming from the trail, and we raced home and never went back to that trail again. This happened 5 years ago when I was 23, and I just wanted to make friends because I was waiting for someone special for me. I talked and chatted with everyone because I like to make new friendships. One day, this guy added me on Facebook. He was from a city 5 hours from mine, and he added me and messaged me instantly. Nothing strange about his profile. We talked for 1 hour about some cliche things, like what do you do in your free time. We eventually talked about video games, and we played a lot of similar games, so we added each other on PlayStation to play together. We played video games with each other for about a month, and it was fun. He had my same sense of humor, which was dark humor and sarcasm, so we got along well. While gaming once, he told me he left his ex-girlfriend 1 year prior because she cheated on him, so he pointed his gun against her because he was angry, but of course it was just to scare her. I told him that was horrible and creepy, but he said that he was just joking and that it wasn't true, which I just chalked up to his sense of humor. One day, he asked me about my love life, and I told him that I was just searching for friends, and he was totally fine with that. I actually really liked playing video games with him. He respected that I wasn't looking for a relationship, and he wasn't flirting at all. Long story short, after having been playing video games with him for about a month, one night I joked about blaming my best friend for not going with me to the movies that night. So I joked with him, laughing that I was going to watch the movie I wanted to see alone tomorrow night. The next day at 8 p.m., he messaged me on Facebook, which again was weird, because at that point we had only talked when we were playing video games together. He messaged me saying hi and asked what I was doing. I messaged back and said, nothing at all. I'm playing a video game and waiting for my dinner to be ready. He messaged back and said, so you aren't going to the movies still tonight? He attached a picture of my hometown sign where you drive past it and it says welcome to the city. I freaked out. Not only was it the weirdest thing ever, but I told him about the main city near where I live, not the small town where I actually lived. There were tons of suburbs near the main town, which I told him about, so it's not like he could have guessed where I lived. I'm not sure if he was a hacker or if it was some other coincidence, but he somehow found out where I lived. He also messaged me saying that he drove 5 hours to come and get me for the movie we were going to go see. I basically told him that I wasn't going to a movie with him, and it was inappropriate for him to show up unannounced like that. All he responded with was that he had asked for 2 free days at work, and he was near my house now and I needed to get ready to go. I responded and said if this was an elaborate prank, it was funny, but if he was being for real, I would call the police if he showed up. I had never asked him to come over, or even told him where I lived, or mentioned anything that we should hang out in person. He got angry at me through text, typing in all caps that he was coming anyways to my house, and that he was tired of driving and I should just accept his nice surprise. I blocked him and told everything to my parents. He sent me a picture of my home from another number. My dad, who is a bodybuilder, went out into the garden and waited hours to get ready to beat the guy up if he tried to approach our house at all. I don't know if this creep saw my dad and got scared, or if it was just a strange prank, but I didn't sleep that night. Later that night, he messaged me over PlayStation, saying that he had arrived home and did 10 hours of driving for nothing. I blocked his PlayStation account and Facebook account, cutting all ties with him. 2 days later, he tried to add me with a new Facebook profile, but I blocked it in a flash. Luckily, I've never heard from him since. Maybe he was a nice guy who didn't understand social cues or situations well. But after only a month of chatting together while gaming, I found it quite creepy that he decided to show up out of the blue.